You know what time it is. It's time for the Kaufman Corner podcast with you, as always, the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810. Sunday, remember, if you're catching us via the podcast, we stream live Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Central. How that shapes up, what are we thinking? Seth Lugo was fixed. Now what? Not so good today. Looked good for a while, but then fell apart. What got into this Royals offense? We're talking about from a good standpoint. Should Jack Caglianone already be a part of this lineup, back being a part of this lineup? What he has done, is it possible that we are not, as much as everybody adores them, some Bobby Witt, we are still not giving him enough credit? We talk about it right here, right now.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. Royals salvaging one of the games against the Detroit Tigers. Rany, where do you sit now? Do we need to bring the optimism meter back and start putting a percentage up there? Where's your optimism right now?
Well, what did we say last week? What did I say when you asked me how the Royals would do in the week to come? I said the Royals would go 4-3. Why did I say that? Because 4-3 seemed like the exact number of wins necessary for them to just continue to tease us into being right on the outskirts of the wild card race. What did they do? They went 4-3. They won 3 out of 4 from the Rangers and gave us a lot of hope. Then they looked bad late in the games, the first 2 games against Detroit. And then today was like a microcosm of their season because they got off to a great start. Then they blew a 5-run lead and fell behind. And then they pluckily came back at the end. And that's the story of this team. They're not a great team. They're not a good team. They drive you crazy sometimes. They have enormous holes in certain places. And yet they just keep chugging along. And just good enough to get the job done. Just good enough to stay in the race. Good enough to be above 500. The problem is they're running out of time. They were 3.5 out when we spoke last week. They are 3 games out this week. If they gain half a game a week, they will finish the season 1 game out of a playoff spot. So they need to basically win one coin flip gain every week the rest of the way. 1 game that is in the balance, 1 50-50 game, they need to turn into a win, pick up basically an extra half win per week if they want to be there at the end. It's their odds are still not with them, but they're not entirely against them either. So it's frustrating, but I think we need to revel in the positive that the Royals are relevant on August 24th. And we could only say that a half dozen times in the past generation. So I'll take it. Right now, I'll take it. Being relevant with 5 weeks left to go is better than most Royals teams I've rooted for over the years.
I listen, this is a successful season. I called them dead and buried on June 15th. They're still in it. They're not dead and buried. They're fighting for it. Mass still says they're not going to get there, but it's definitely a race. I mean, you definitely are excited to sit down. Like, we got a game today. Let's go. Let me watch some scores. What's going on elsewhere? I need to see what's happening. And I think that's all you can ask of a certainly of a small market team. If you can make the playoffs half the time, you've certainly beaten the odds, even for maybe the big market teams. But, I don't know what else you could possibly be wanting from this club. I do continue to reiterate they were a 106 loss team 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a lot of things were kind of fluky last year. They're not fluky this year. All kinds of injuries, all kinds of attrition to deal with.
Exactly.
Here they sit 3 games out. I mean, and for a while this week, they were 2 games out. They haven't made up ground from when we last chatted, but they did make up ground in the middle. And if they could, catch a run, and they've got 3 with the White Sox, they could be at 2. They could be at 1, right? By the time that they then host the Detroit Tigers. But to your point, 31 games are left. Right? It's go time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they got to really make sure that they're playing. I'm not saying that they have to get into the lead right now. Is it 31 or is it 36? Now
31 games. 31 to go. Yep.
Yeah, 31 to go. They really do need to, you want to get there and get the lead and have everybody chasing you is what you want. But these 3 with the White Sox, I mean, they've got a stretch here where of the road for 3. Tigers are tough, but at home for 3. The Angels are falling out of it at home for 3. And then the Twins, who are falling out of it at home for 3. I mean, they need to be they need to be there, right? In these next 12 games, they have to get there, because after that, that's a bloodbath.
It is, but I will say this. They only have 2 series on the road left against teams above 500, right? The Guardians and then the Phillies on a single road trip in mid-September. And then they finished the season with 3 at the Angels and finished the season with 3 at the Athletics. So, like, those are series against teams that are to varying degrees out of it. They're frisky on some level. If you believe in the idea of a spoiler, the A's are kind of the perfect setup for a spoiler in a city that they're renting. That nobody, even their home fans don't really want them there. But they're dangerous series. But I would still rather finish the season at Sacramento, against like 10,000 fans in the stadium, rather than finish the season in New York or Boston or something like that. So it's not, as you say, it's kind of front loaded with the easier teams. The next 12 games, 3 at the White Sox, and then a 9-game homestand have to make their move. It's going to be much harder for them to make up ground after that. The hope is if they can go, let's say, tied for a playoff spot. And then it's just a matter of holding on for dear life for the last 19 games of the season. But they could do that. But these next 12 games, they're critical.
They are very critical. What do you make of the 3 games against the Tigers? Like, getting leads and then immediately spitting them back.
Well, to me, it's just a reminder that, like you said, it felt like everything was, I don't want to say everything went right last year, but it was kind of a charmed existence. I mean, the bullpen was a problem all year, but guys generally were healthy. And it was just a matter of adding talent through the season. In the case of the bullpen, adding a guy like Lucas Erceg and bringing guys up from the minor leagues who could be helpful. This year is a reminder that it's a slog. And Lucas Erceg cost them a game in this series, right? And even today, they held on to win, but he gave up a home run to Spencer Torkelson in this 1 inning. He's not 100%. And, they're having to overcome the players that they thought that they could count on. They're overcoming, Cole Reagans' absence and the fact that, with his next start, Michael Lorenzen will have the 3rd most starts on the team. They've missed a lot of guys this year. The bottom of that lineup is a real issue. And so we'll get into it, but like them scoring 10 runs on a day where they really needed to, when, Luke Maley is behind the plate and, they've got Adam Frazier batting sixth. It's a real tribute to the resilience of this team. Cause right now the bullpen it seems to be going on fumes at some point. From one day to the next, you just don't know who you can rely on. I mean, Carlos Estevez came through today, but he's not always reliable. Angel Serpa is an absolute roller coaster from one game to the next. And we're getting to the point now where like Jonathan Bolin, who, I believe has been called up for the 8th time this season. That, we're talking about the guy on the Omaha shuttle, 8th time he's been called up. And he came in, he had the more important inning than Ursic. Like Ursic got the 7th. Jonathan Bolin, straight up from the minor leagues, got the 8th and was brilliant. 1, 2, 3, and 7 pitches and got out.
He got the bottom of the order.
Okay,
that's why.
That's probably, you're right. But the point is, they trusted him for the 8th inning. They didn't trust him to be on the roster 48 hours ago. So
I'm not trying to minimize when he came into the game. I'm just saying Ursic, they did what they like to do. They gave him the middle. Right. But no, I'm with you. And Ryan even made a point of it on the broadcast. Like, hey, here he is going into the 8th. I mean, like their depth is being tested all the way down into the minor leagues. And
I'll tell you, who's the unsung hero of that bullpen for me is John Schreiber.
Yes.
Like, he has just been used in so many roles. His velocity, I noticed it early in the year, was actually a tick up from last year. And, he's a guy with a funky arm angle and, gets a fair number of ground balls. He doesn't have to overwhelm you with strikeouts, but his strikeout rate has ticked up this year in part with the velocity. And, he's got I think a 3.18 ERA, but I think he gave up most of those runs early in the season. So, since, I guess he's been pretty consistent. His ERA has been around 3 for most of the year, but like he has pitched a lot of crucial innings for this team. And to me, this is where Matt Quattro's strengths really have shined for the second straight year, that he has managed to keep that bullpen from falling apart. When from one, he might have 1 or 2 guys in the whole bullpen that you really rely on from night to night, that you just have confidence will bring their good stuff. I mean, this year, I'm not who in that bullpen has been somebody you feel comfortable with from April till today. I don't think there's anybody, right? Because Ursic has, kind of fallen apart really in recent weeks. Estevez has. You have like 80% confidence in him all the time, but never 100% confident in him. Steven Cruz was like a revelation and then sucked for a month before he got hurt. And maybe he was starting to hurt all along. Daniel Lynch has been, good and then not good and then good. And Schreiber may be the closest to a reliable guy. And we're talking about a righty specialist. So credit to the team that like the bullpen has actually overall been a strength, even though there isn't one really dominant pitcher in that bullpen.
Yeah, no, it's I think he's been great. I know people every time Curtis Siebel tweeted out, who the best pitchers in the world are. He said the best pitchers in the world are, and he rattled off like 2 names, and then whoever Matt Quatraro didn't go to. Because everyone is convinced that had he gone to the other guy, it would have been lights out. Listen, there is a reason for everything Matt Quatraro does. I like, that's the one thing. This is not, he's not trying to get somebody a win, which Ned Yost routinely would flat out say was the reason he stayed with guys. They have a point in the game where if you're not up by a big lead, if you're not cruising, then I'm going to the pen and I'm going to this guy. It's all well thought out. It's all mathematically works. Listen, there's a reason why J.J. Piccolo said after that first terrible year, I've got to get him some more weapons for the bullpen. Because Quatraro said, like, listen, this is my lefty guy. I'm going to him. If he sucks, I'm still going to him because he's got the best chance. Get me someone who doesn't suck and this will work. But this is what I got to do. There's no point in staying with the starters longer. 1, wearing them out over the course of the long haul. 2, putting them in a situation they're not likely to succeed. I need these guys. And I think there's still a little bit, as all clubs are. It's the reason why even the big market clubs are adding relievers every deadline, that they're in it for the playoffs. They're still, they could use a couple more weapons in that bullpen. Hunter Harvey going down, it looked like it was all going to start really coming into place. Mm-hmm. And then back to the IL he went, and that's been a killer.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Harvey was the one guy who was dominant from start to finish, but start to finish for him was like 8 minutes. I should bring this up because the commenters have made a good point. The other guy who's really been the unsung hero is Taylor Clark.
Yeah.
And Taylor Clark had a stretch in there, but even him, like there was a stretch during the middle of the season where he gave up 13 runs over 12 and 2/3 innings. He was like phenomenal after getting called up in May for about a month, then was awful for about 6 weeks. And just when you thought, oh, this isn't working out with him, he turned the corner again. They kept relying on him. They kept trusting him. And since July 20th, he's now allowed 1 run in 16 and a third innings with 2 walks and 18 strikeouts. Like even when when they stick with the guy that has been struggling, the difference between now and almost every other Royals team I've watched is that I actually trust that there is a reason for them doing what they're doing. That there's I pinpointed a cause, or they rightly believe that the process is good. The results have just been bad because of bad luck. The only exception to this, I'm sure they have their reasons for continuing to entrust Sam Long with important innings, or frankly any innings at all. And okay, I'll grant that since coming back from the injured list, he has been better than he was in April when he had a 12.86 ERA. But better is relative. He has since returning a 4.43 ERA in the last 2 months since June 21st when he came back, which is in a 4.77 FIP. He has hardly been dominant. But if that's the worst guy in your bullpen and you're turning to him in key situations, in part because you need so many innings from your bullpen right now, because the starters who were going last year 6 and 7 innings consistently, and this year, like you said, Cordero's not trying to get them 5 innings to qualify for the win. He's pulling them in the 5th inning a lot when the game is still on the line. Like he's not taking the chance of giving up additional runs just to get a guy through 15 outs. So we're seeing a lot of 4 1/3, 4 2/3 outings. Noah Cameron's been doing that. Lorenzen's been doing that, which is straining the bullpen. But you have to win the game at hand. All right, the roster's expanded in 8 days. And I'm sure like every other team, one of the 2 guys they'll call up will be a reliever. They will continue to max out as many innings as they can from the bullpen. But they're holding on by the skin of their teeth, in part because the bullpen is holding on by the skin of their teeth. And that could fall apart at any moment here. Like the bullpen could just collapse upon itself. But I'm glad to have Jonathan Bolin back, because I do think that he's the one reinforcement from AAA that I actually do trust in key situations, and I think frankly should have been on the roster more of the season than he has. And my hope is that he will stick around from now until September.
Seth Lugo looked like he was fixed. Now he doesn't. We will talk about that after you hear from our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's talk about Seth Lugo. Looked really good there for a couple of starts. You're like, okay, they figured it out. Then today, going good. Gives up just the home run to Green early. You're thinking, all right, look, there's going to be 3 good starts in a row, and things start to fall apart. Where do you sit right now on Seth Lugo?
So my like we discussed last week, my number one concern with it is simple: is he healthy? Right, and on that front, I feel better today than I did a week ago. We talked last week; he had just come off not just the worst 3-start stretch he'd had as a starting pitcher, but the lowest pitch velocity he had in a start, lowest average fastball velocity of any start he had made in the 3 years he's been in a rotation. So when he took the mound on Tuesday, I breathed a sigh of relief. And not only did he pitch better, but his average fastball velocity was actually the highest he had since, I think, his first start back from the injured list, which was like in mid-June. So his velocity was back. Today, his velocity was down from that, but it was higher than it was 2 starts ago. It was about a quarter, 0.2 to 0.5 miles an hour slower than his season average, which, is acceptable for September, or August and September. Most guys are going to lose a little bit of velocity as the season goes along. But I'm still not convinced his arm is presumably healthy. I do wonder, given that he was on the injured list with, I think it was like a finger tendonitis problem that he had earlier in the year. The finger is not where you're generating velocity, but that's where you generate touch. And when you think about how Seth Lugo is, famous for how many pitches he throws and, how delicate his touch is on the mound, he's applying different pressures different finger pressures to the baseball to get a curveball versus a sinker versus a four-seamer versus, his slider versus, he's got a splitter he throws sometimes. Like, you think about all the different pitches he throws. I could see if that finger is not 100%, that might just affect his ability to get finish on his pitches. But that, to me, is not a long-term, career-altering kind of issue. But it's definitely an issue with him being at 100% between now and the end of the season. So we may just have to accept that he's a diminished version of himself for the next however long the season is. And that is a problem. It's not a fatal problem, but we're going to be holding our breath when he takes them out, I think, until he spins.
By itself, it's not a fatal problem, but is it the last straw? Right? You lost Reagans. Well, it's not fatal, but you lost Bubic. Well, it's not fatal, but if he's going to pitch like Michael Lorenzen, I don't think they can get there.
I wouldn't have thought they'd get to here, except that at the same moment that the rotation is really got, it's like a dam that the crack is finally starting to let water through. But at that same moment, the offense is blowing our minds because, like, it's not just, the offense is better than it was before, but it's like a completely different offense than we have seen, not just this season, in a long time. And we'll get into that. But the only reason they're still in this is because the offense has come to life at like the last possible moment. If the offense continues to perform the way it has, they might be able to survive this last straw as well. That straw cup, it's like the bag from McDonald's that, there's always a fry at the bottom of the bag, and then you just keep reaching in, keep finding another fry. I feel like every time you think it's the last straw, you reach down into the cup and there's another straw. They pulled Noah Cameron out of their hat like a rabbit. They pulled Ryan Bergert out of the trade deadline like another rabbit. Maybe there's one more trick up their sleeve. But you would still rather see Seth Lugo just start pitching better, because the problem is he's going to be in the rotation. They're not going to suddenly, unless he's hurt, they're not going to suddenly stop pitching him and bring up Stephen Kolek and find out what we're going to have there. If Seth Lugo pitches poorly, he's still pitching, and they're going to have to overcome that with good offense. So you really hope that he starts pitching better, like, immediately.
Yeah. I think the 2 starts give us hope that he can, that they figured something out. This was just a setback. He was pitching well for quite a while, right? Like, that's part of the equation as well. Like, he was pitching well for quite a while. So, it wasn't, then it just came unraveled at the end. And he couldn't get it back. So that is the issue there, I think. But I'm optimistic. I mean, what would you bet on? That he's going to be bad or good?
I feel better today about his near future than I did a week ago. And I feel as good about the Royals' decision, to continue to pitch him than I would have in, since the Dave Island years, I guess, in 8 or 9 years. That I actually have faith that if the Royals are continuing to put him on the mound every 5th day, that at the very least they're not doing damage to his arm. I have to believe that they wouldn't, be pitching him out there if there was something truly concerning about his arm structure. And this is something that they can manage. He's a veteran. He doesn't need to throw 93 miles an hour. I mean, frankly, he's one of the few guys in the majors a few right-handers in the majors, probably doesn't need to throw 91 to be effective with his arsenal. But I think they're probably gonna have to manage his workload a little bit, just in terms of the number of pitches, and not allow him to do what he did today, which is blow a 5-run lead. I mean, that's if the Royals had not come back, we would be having a very different conversation about Seth Lugo and the Royals in general, frankly, right now. So they need to manage, and at the first sign of danger, maybe they just don't give him the leash to work out of trouble the way they have had since he joined the team last year.
You mentioned it. The pitching has taken on water, but the offense has found themselves walking, slugging. Who are these guys? Where did they come from? Is the secret in Vinny's hair? He's Samson.
I think, yeah, look, it's all Alex Zumwalt, obviously. I mean, and look, I mean, I'm being sarcastic, but I'm not being fully sarcastic. Like I've been ripping him, the first half of the season. He deserved it. Well, if he deserved that, I can't just discount the fact that they are hitting. If the season started at the All-Star break, we'd be hailing Alex Zumwalt as a genius, right?
Yes.
Because what it is so stark, the difference. Again, it's not just, they are scoring more runs, they're hitting better. It's how they're doing it, right? The first half of the season, between opening day and the All-Star break, the Royals were next to last in the major leagues in home runs. Only the Pirates hit fewer home runs the first half of the season than the Royals did, right? So dead last in the American League. Since the All-Star break, counting today now, they had 2 home runs today. Do you know
4 walks
and 4 walks too? Do you know where they rank among all major league teams in home runs since the All-Star break? Which is now, for one thing, the All-Star break, we're not using an arbitrary date. Like, All-Star break is a very clean demarcation line, and it's now been almost 6 weeks. Where we're approaching a decent sample size here. We're approaching 35, 40 games here. So since the All-Star break, where do the Royals rank in home runs?
Just since the All-Star break?
Since the All-Star break.
Not what they've climbed to for the overall year.
Oh,
just since the All-Star break.
Since the All-Star break.
9th.
With their 2 home runs today, they tied the Blue Jays, A's, and White Sox for 3rd.
Wow.
In the major leagues with 53 home runs since the All-Star break. The Phillies have 58. The Yankees have 60, not counting today's games. 3rd. Even with those teams, tied between 3rd and 6th. It's, remarkable. They were 29th before the All-Star break. They are in the top 6 today. But to me, that's not even the most remarkable part. Let's talk about walks. Okay? Because the first half of the season, the Royals were not 29th. They were last in the major leagues. And they weren't last by a small amount. The Royals had 24 fewer walks than the Rockies. Okay? And 37 fewer walks than any other team. The Orioles were 28th. So 24 behind every other team, 37 behind every other team that isn't on pace to lose 115 games. Like, they were last by a massive margin. Do you know where they rank in walks since the All-Star break?
I'll try 3rd.
All right, not that high. They are, I know, they're 7th. 1 behind the Twins, I think 2 behind the Mets, I want to say. But they're 7th. To me, the Royals ranking top 10 in walks is more remarkable than if they led the majors on home runs. This is a team that hasn't walked in 40 years. What on earth is going on here? Like, batting average, they're fine in batting average, but they're 10th in batting average since the All-Star break. All right, the Royals, that's the one thing they always do well, partly because of the ballpark, partly because of their philosophy. But they were 19th in the first half of the season. Their batting average is up 7 points since the All-Star break. That's not what is shocking. What's shocking here is, Vinny now today, his 13th homer since the All-Star break. Salvi obviously has 9. They have, it's the power is ridiculous, but the walks are incredible. We talk about a walk rate of at least 10% being really, really good. Well, Maikel Garcia is at 12% since the All-Star break. Jonathan India is Bobby Witt's around 10%. Pasquantino's around 9%. Mike Yastrzemski, obviously, that's always been in his bag, and he's around 14%. Even Kyle Isbell is walking 10% of the time since the All-Star break. This is weird in the best possible way, right? And this extends down to their chase rates. Sam McDowell wrote a nice article in the Star detail. I think they have like the 4th lowest chase rate since the All-Star break as of like 3 days ago, which is in some ways even more impressive than being 7th in walks. They're suddenly not swinging at bad pitches, getting into hitters' counts, and crushing the good pitches, which is what we've been asking for like my entire life.
Yeah. I think there's it's never one thing. I don't think it's any one thing, but I think there are a couple things. One, we know they were better offensively last year because the big boys hit. Bobby Witt Jr. was insane. Salvador Perez was as good as, it was good salvage, just short of as good as he'd been, except for his 48 home run year. Vinny Pasquantino was great. And we know as soon as Vinny went out, like the lineup sputtered down the stretch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they sputtered to score runs this year because those guys weren't all hitting. Bobby was doing fine, but Vinny was nowhere to be found. Salvador Perez was nowhere to be found for a while. So I think that's part of it. You've got guys that they fear at those parts of the lineup, so the guys around them are getting better pitchers and or they're worn out after they come through that part of the lineup. And I don't think you can underestimate what Yastrzemski's done. I mean, one, completing the lineup and making it to where there's not just a gimme, right? Like, and all of them. I think we're seeing that when everybody can put together a productive at-bat, everybody benefits, right? When Kyle Isbell can float, and I don't know where they were, but I think was it last week when I said they ran out of lineup where everybody had a 300 on base? Like, when was the last time that had happened, for the Royals? I mean, Salvador Perez is up to 294 on base. Kyle Isbell, 305. And I think the fact that they're all on there, pitchers are having to pitch with guys on base, more stressful innings. I mean, I think we're finding out that it is hard, to hit a baseball. It is hard to have great strike zone judgment, but if you can do it, it makes everything better. It feeds on itself. And that's the moral to me. One, they elongated the lineup. Two, they're platooning guys for the most part and getting the better splits out there. And then the lineup is complete in forcing pitching staffs to work, which is getting them into the bullpen quicker. And then they've got answers. When the bullpen turns them around, they've got somebody okay, here's this guy. I think in some ways we can't believe it. And we're at a loss for words for how it happened. In other ways, it's like, no, they're just doing what Rany has screamed about for 20, 30 years. You know what I mean? In some ways, they just have not talked about, oh, yeah, we pay attention to the numbers. They're using the numbers. They're building the team based upon the numbers. They're building the lineup based upon the numbers. Like, some of it's kind of like, oh, duh.
All right. Well, it's duh, but at the same time, it's like, sure, it's easy for me to say, hey, guys, take more pitches, but teaching that is obviously a lot harder. And, we started turning the term swing decisions into an epithet because they preached swing decisions, but it was the swing decisions sucked. Well, the swing decisions have been excellent since the All-Star break, and the results bear it out. So, like, yeah, it's like, on the one hand, it's like, yes, smack my head. It's like, geez, finally you're doing something I've been asking for forever. But it's one thing to ask for. It's another thing to actually teach it and still be successful. But it gives you a lot of relief that all of their pretty words about swing decisions, about understanding the importance of plate discipline and getting good pitches to hit, et cetera, was not just, window dressing. That we're actually seeing some of that come to fruition now. And yes, some of it is their superstars, hitting like superstars, but some of it is actually going out and getting a Mike Yastrzemski in the first place. All right. Because we thought he'd be, a great fit for that, in part because yes, he does extend the lineup, but like take pitches, make pitchers work. And they went out and got him. And we've talked about the importance of like platooning at positions where you don't have a star player and trying to get $15 million of production from a position using two guys who are each making a couple million because you platoon them. And guess what? They're platooning with, pretty like strict platoon between Yastrzemski and Grichuk. Like as good as Yastrzemski has been, the other team goes to a lefty in the middle innings, he's coming out of the game. Like they're not messing around. They're bringing in Grichuk. They're platooning with Rave and Nick Lofton pretty strictly, and it's working. Right, all those things they're doing is working. Now, here is the caveat we have to say about all this, because look, like if we're gonna discredit Alex Zumwalt for the first half, we have to give him credit for the second half. But here's the issue. Let's put it all together. So in the first half of the season, obviously the Royals lineup was crap. Okay. But let's talk about what they've done since then. Okay. So overall runs scored since the All-Star break, coming into today, they were 8th, and they're probably moved up at least a couple slots after a 10th spot today. So they're top 10 in offense in overall runs scored since the All-Star break. But they were 29th in baseball before the All-Star break. They were dead last in the American League. All right, so put it all together. Where did the Royals rank in runs per game in the American League for the whole season? They were last in the American League before the All-Star break. They were 8th in the majors. I'll see if I can get you where they ranked in the American League. First, second, tied, fourth in the American League since the All-Star break. So last before the All-Star break, fourth since the All-Star break. Where do they rank overall?
I think still probably way down there, 25.
They are still dead last in the American League. They're a little higher for the majors as a whole, I think 27th, but they're still dead last in the American League in runs per game. They actually moved ahead of the Guardians today in overall runs, but the Guardians have played 2 fewer games. The point is, like, this is still by runs per game for the season, and you have to look at the season as a whole because that's how the standings work. They're still dead last. That's how much of a hole they built for themselves in the first half of the season. And I mean, stop for a moment and just contemplate. They have the fewest runs per game in the American League, and they're 3 games out of a playoff spot over 500, which is an incredible tribute to the pitching staff and to the pitching regime, as well as, I think, for the second year now, the Royals are, have a better record than maybe you would expect based on the run differential. I think even more than last year. They were outscored, I think, coming into today, right? Yeah, they're still been outscored by 3 runs on the season, and they're 3 games above 500. So they've had whether that's good luck or just good managing with, in the late innings with the bullpen, they've had their fair share of extra inning wins, etc. But like the offense is not the reason why they're above 500. Even with their recent uptick, they still have the worst offense in the league. We can't lose sight of that. If this continues for the next 6 weeks, then I think we can have a serious discussion about Alex Zumwalt's overall tenure. But if you're going to give him credit for the last 6 weeks, you have to acknowledge that for the season as a whole, they still have the worst offense. And if they just had an 11th best offense in the American League, they would be comfortably in a playoff spot right now.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about whether or not Jack Caglianone can help this offense. We'll do it after you hear from our friends from Whataburger. Your favorites are back, Kansas City, now for a limited time at all your KC Whataburger locations. Get the Pico de Gallo burger, 2 large beef patties, 2 slices of pepper jack cheese, Pico de Gallo, and creamy cilantro lime. How about the sweet and spicy bacon burger, 2 large beef patties, American and Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, grilled onions, and topped with sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Or grab the patty melt, even the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all perfect with the Whataburger banana pudding shake. Remember, Whataburger's open 24 hours a day. Breakfast served 11 p to 11 a. And don't forget, you can get all your Whataburger favorites and more by downloading the Whataburger app with the QR code. Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Kaufman Corner podcast. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Let's talk about Jack Caglianone. A couple more RBIs today. He is batting almost 400. I think 4 walks, 8 strikeouts, some of that range. 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. I can't remember what it is, but a lot of the numbers in the month of August. I mean, all the numbers in the month of August. Doubles, homers. They all look sparkling. Should he already be here? Here being Kansas City.
I mean, I think so. In part, okay. Well, we have this discussion every week, and I'm not adamant about it. In part because the offensive environment for Omaha right now is like AAA in general is just such a good place to hit for a variety of reasons. Could be the ball, could be the ballparks, could be just the lack of pitching there. But like offensive levels in AAA are just so high that it's hard to take any amount of offense seriously. You throw in the fact that they just completed, I guess, a six game road trip at Colorado Springs, playing at like very high elevation. And that tells you next to nothing about, a guy's offensive performance. I mean, I imagine you saw yesterday that the Storm Chasers scored 23 runs. They beat Colorado Springs. Hold on, it wasn't Colorado Springs. I think I've been confused by that before. COL is Columbus. Okay, never mind. It wasn't in high altitude, so maybe they just were that good because they hit 10 home runs yesterday, and it was in Ohio. It wasn't in Colorado. I take that back. But it was a wild game. I mean, MJ Melendez, 2 homers and 2 doubles. Drew Waters, like the first Storm Chaser in like 10 years to hit home runs from both sides of the plate. Everybody was hitting. So the fact that Caglianone went 3 for 6 with a homer, does it mean something? I don't know. He went 2 for 5 today. It's better than him not hitting, but I can't tell you for certain that's going to translate. The reason why I think he should be up is precisely because he's hitting so well, and I still don't know if it matters. I just don't know if he's like gaining anything by being in Omaha anymore. And I just look at a Royals lineup where today the bottom 4 went Adam Frazier, Jonathan India, Kyle Isbell, and Luke Mailey. Okay, fine. Luke Mailey's not in there all the time, but if Luke Mailey were sitting and Salvi was catching, probably be John Rave. And I just look at this lineup. I'm like, it's one bat short of being even wild card playoff caliber. Like the top 5 is great. I mean, it's at least a playoff caliber. It's Yastrzemski, Bobby Witt, Vinny, Michael Garcia, Salvador Perez. Yeah, great. But it tails off, and they just need one more badly. And Jack Caglianone is not just the best. He's really the only guy I could think could become an impact bat in the next 6 weeks. So I understand the risks involved, but I also understand the risks involved in not bringing him up, that you're going to finish the season 2 games out and wonder what might have been. And I just feel like having him in the lineup at this point, he's done everything he could to earn that spot. And I'm ready to give him.
Isn't that what everybody said after the first time he got called up?
Yeah. And it didn't work out, but that doesn't mean it won't. I mean, unless you think he's never going to hit, like at some point, it's the minor league performance and the major league exit velos is going to translate into major league performance.
Agreed. I think he's going to hit eventually. I don't know if it's now, and what they've got isn't broken. Like before, it was broken. I mean, I think we all agreed that when they called him up the last time, it wasn't ideal. It wasn't when they wanted to call him up. What they said was, what we'd really like is to bring him up into a lineup that's already hitting, where there's no pressure, and he can just be a part of it. And that's going on now.
Right.
That is a reason to say, okay,
exactly.
We can put him into the lineup because not everybody's looking at him like you save us. And I think where they were, though, last time when they brought him up was, we need help. And he's our best chance. It's a Hail Mary. Let's see if a couple of home runs from him gets the lineup going, gets the pitchers working harder. It didn't. And so now, while it's working, I don't think there's any way you can look at it and say, if he doesn't come up till September 1 and they fall 1 game short, well, it's because they didn't bring up Caglianone. Like, I don't agree with, to me, I'd have to go look at what his swing and misses look like, but he was chasing everything all over the place, Rany. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't like, oh, he almost got that one. Like, he was swinging late. He was swinging at pitches way too high. I mean, there were some bad decisions.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I do hope. We are going to wonder. There is no doubt that if they wait till September 1st and he comes up and just rakes, and then they fall a game short, we are going to sit there and be like, oh my God, that might have been the difference. I will not have any animosity because I think this is, again, grounded in we have something that's working right now, and we're not going to mess with it. We don't have to mess with it, so we're not going to. And I wouldn't be shocked if when he comes back, when they do bring him up on September 1st, if it's not more as a pinch hitter. Let's pinch him against a guy that we know. We like the swing plane. We like everything about it. Let's put him in there where he's got the best chance for success, and we need a guy to hit a long ball. And if he doesn't, I mean, we're kind of, we're screwed anyway, so there's no pressure on him. I don't know that you just, when he comes up, he goes right into the lineup every day. How about right into the lineup as a platoon?
I mean, I think that's a likely scenario. And I would be fine if he was up but not playing every single day, and they spotted him, not just not playing against lefties, but certain right-handers who have really good off-speed stuff, for instance, or guys who, who excel in getting batters to chase outside the zone. Potentially even guys who have excellent command, the kind of guys who might be able to get him to swing at a pitch 6 inches out of the zone on purpose. Maybe he doesn't play every day, but if he plays, he's a left-handed bat, so he's going to get the platoon advantage 75% of the time. So if he plays 50% of the time he's in the lineup and the other 50% he's a pinch hitter off the bench, I would be fine with that. But I just feel like, there's two things to keep in mind here. One is, can he help the Royals get to October? But the other thing is, let's say he comes up and he does rake in September and you make it to the playoffs. I want him to have that opportunity to earn a spot in the lineup for October, in part because that was my wild and crazy number one prediction at the beginning of the year. And, it's all about me, but also because, to me, that would be the big story is if he he comes up and slugs 600 in September and the Royals make the playoffs by a game. It's like, okay, not only did he help you get to the playoffs, but now suddenly it's like, yeah, he's going to be in the lineup in October and he's a massive wild card. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care if it's the Yankees or whatever. Like you introduce that kind of volatility into what can happen. That's exciting if you're a Royals fan, because the Royals are going to be an underdog in the playoffs in pretty much any series they play. So they need to embrace the variance in that situation.
They are how many games? I don't remember the off day set up here. They are what? They go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday off. They are 6 games away from it being.
Right. And that's why I'm not if you tell me right now he'll be on the roster September 1st and he'll play 50% of the time after that, at this point, yeah, I'm fine with that. All right. I suspect I'd be very surprised if we get to September, they bring up a hitter. The only real alternative would be Carter Jensen, which I would love to find a way to get both of them on this team, because Luke Maile continues to, have his moments. And today, he started a kind of crazy 6-run rally with 2 outs and nobody on with a single, motoring around on a double to score and sparking the rally. But still, I would.
By the way, how would you grade his slide at home?
But I'm trying to remember it now. It was awkward, but
it was kind of a crash.
Yeah, I would want to say it didn't matter. I think because
he got down and then kind of finished with a roll.
It was like he forgot he was about to pass home plate or something. I think maybe he thought home plate was 5 feet farther than it was. But yeah,
it was interesting.
Something you could laugh about later. But yeah, I would just on the days, because they do seem determined to play their backup catcher, even though it's not Freddie Fermin, a fair amount. Which, okay, credit to them for trying to give Salvi some rest. But Luke Maile in the lineup a third of the time. I would rather have Carter Jensen in there at some point, but there's probably not going to be room for both of them. So at this point, I'd probably rather take my chances with Caglianone.
So let's talk about Bobby Witt Jr. Are we taking him for granted? Right? I know we got a lot of pub. By the way, some of the reporting's been wrong. Carlos Beltran was 1 day younger than they're giving him credit for. I looked it up and I confirmed it. I said to Kurt Nelson, who handles the Royals Hall of Fame, I said, can you check my math on this? Everyone's saying he's 26 and 108 days. I know it's 1 day. Who cares? And Bobby smashed it. Okay. But it still annoys me. 26 and 107 days Carlos Beltran was when he hit his 100th homer. Bobby Witt, 25 and 66 days, more than a full year younger than Carlos Beltran. right?
When he had
That's
100 home runs. So
yeah, being the fastest to 100 home runs. And then if you look at the one of 4 players with 100 home runs and 100 stolen bases in his first 4 seasons, I looked this up. By age, he's the second youngest to do that. Darryl Strawberry was 24 in 207. He's 25 and 66. Julio Rodriguez, 25 and 217. And Bobby Bonds was 25 and 195 days. So they're the only 4 that have done it. And he's the second youngest of the bunch. I think that's interesting. By games, Darryl Strawberry did it in 516. Bobby needed 593. Julio Rodriguez, 542. And Bobby Bonds, 549. So it took him the most games. But in some ways, that's also a compliment. He plays all the time.
mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it is about being in the lineup, and he's always in the lineup. He got to it on his 126th game of his 4th season, the 126th game of his team on the 4th season. It was game 162 for Strawberry. You know, he did it on the last day of the season in 86. He got his 100th stolen base on the last day of the season. Julio Rodriguez got his 100th homer on game 113, so he did it quicker by where it was in the season. Bobby Bonds got his 100th home run. He already had the stolen bases easily. Got his 100th home run on game number 159. They just tucked it in. Julio Rodriguez and Bobby Witt Jr. cruised to it in that. Like, I'll point out the 2 guys that are done. Darryl Strawberry finished with 335 homers and 221 stolen bases and had massive drug problems. And Bobby Bonds finished with 332 homers and 461 stolen bases. What's the future? Oh, and by the way, if Bobby hits one more home run, Winnie hits one more home run, he will become just the second player joining Julio Rodriguez to start his career with 4 consecutive 2020 seasons. Like, what does it look like when it's all said and done for Bobby Witt Jr.?
So my favorite part of that extensive list of Bobby Witt Jr.'s accomplishments is the thing you didn't mention, which is every other player you mentioned, Carlos Beltran, Julio Rodriguez, Darryl Strawberry, Barry Bonds, or Bobby Bonds, are all outfielders.
Yeah.
Bobby Witt Jr. is a shortstop.
Yep.
And he's doing that. Like, Bobby Witt, in what I think a lot of people would consider to be an off season, maybe, or at least a little bit of a disappointment. If you just if you ask the casual fan, like, you know, is Bobby Witt having as good a year as you expected him to going into the season? I think the average fan would be like, no, he's been a little bit disappointing. Bobby Witt Jr., according to Fangraphs, is the 3rd most valuable player in the American League. By Baseball Reference, he's 2nd. He's actually ahead of Cal Raleigh, who has 50 home runs, who set the all-time Major League record, broke Salvador Perez's all-time record for home runs by a catcher. And Bobby Witt has more wins above replacement than him. Bobby Witt has 5.9 wins above replacement. If it wasn't for Bobby Witt last year, Bobby Witt this year would have had the greatest season by a shortstop in Royals history with a month to go. Like, he's already had the second greatest season by a Royals shortstop ever, second only to himself last year. And this is, you know, where I think modern metrics are very, very helpful, though, in delineating exactly why. Because he's not doing anything exceptional, although he is leading the league in doubles. I mean, that's not nothing, right? But it's like, but he does everything well. No, he's not going to probably win the batting title this year, but he's hitting 298.
Yeah.
297, I guess, after a 1-for-4 today, right? Like, he's not exceptional at walking, but he will take some walks. His OBP is over 350. He's leading the league in doubles along with those 19 home runs and 4 triples. He's slugging over 500. He's an exceptional base runner. Much better this year than last year, I should point out. Last year, he got caught 12 times and only stole 31 bases. That was something we talked about, that he really needed to clean up his base stealing. He went from 31 to 43. This year, he's 34 for 41. So he's a much more efficient base stealer. And Baseball Reference grades him as he was actually slightly below average overall last year because he got picked off a few times, and he was reckless on the bases. This year he's been worth 6 runs just on the bases, which is a very, very good number. And he's a shortstop, and he's a good shortstop. I'm not sure if he's been quite as good this year as he was last year, but he won a Gold Glove last year.
But you watch the games. I don't know where the defensive numbers are kind of wonky. He's making unbelievable plays again this year.
Again, it's a lot of it is just like the vibes, the reputation. I'm saying people are like, it's not. But like you said, it's not just watch everything. If you tabulate everything, and that's what modern metrics do. Like, we're looking at everything. He is a above average, maybe the best shortstop, but certainly one of the better shortstops. And he plays every day, like you said. And the most important ability is availability. And, he's missed 3 games this year. And that's already more than last year. He missed 4 in 2023. He plays, he's never been on the injured list in his career, I believe. And, hopefully he never will, but he does everything well. Let me give you something. This is just silly. And again, this is supposed to be an off year for him. Okay. He's on pace for 50 doubles, 24 homers, and 42 stolen bases. I'm going to lower those thresholds a little bit. Let's call it 48 doubles, 22 homers, and 40 stolen bases. So if he falls too short in each of those categories, only 6 weeks left. Like, you need 8 more doubles.
And this is a time when he usually is hot. So
yes, he is hot in August. I will say, last year he did kind of fall off in September, and actually it's one of the things I'm a little worried about. Like, he plays every day, that takes a toll on him, because God knows the Royals need him in September. But let's cut him some slack here. If he gets 8 more doubles, 3 homers, and 6 stolen bases in the next 31 games, 48 doubles, 22 homers, 40 steals. How many players in Major League history have done that in a season?
Jimmy Rollins. That smells like the Jimmy Rollins territory we talked about last year.
So Jimmy Rollins never did it.
Really? Okay. What did he come up short? Doubles?
I'm actually looking it up right now. I think it might have been the doubles. Yeah, he never got past 45.
Okay.
So 48 doubles, 22 homers, 40 steals.
This is anyone or just shortstops?
Anybody.
Larkin might have been in that neighborhood.
Yeah. So it's been
A-Rod done early in his career.
Nope. I think the doubles got some of these guys. A-Rod had the 40 homers, but didn't get the 48 doubles. It's been done.
That is the when doubles become homers, no one's complaining.
Well, exactly. No one's complaining, but still, it's the nice thing about doubles, especially at this age, is that the doubles will probably become homers as he gets older, right? Like,
yes,
you'd rather have the talent base of the doubles now, because that'll lead to something. It's been done twice. Alfonso Soriano in 2002 and Hanley Ramirez in 2007. Both guys, middle infielders, but both guys were not considered great defensive players. Hanley in particular was just a liability at shortstop, but was such an incredible hitter early in his career, it didn't matter. But Bobby is an elite defensive shortstop, and he's filling out a stat sheet like that in a season that feels like a mild disappointment compared to last year. It's crazy. That's how good he is. And then you just think about the context. The greatest season in Royals history, the 2 greatest seasons in Royals history by a hitter, 1980 George Brett and 2024 Bobby Witt. I would say the 2 most impactful seasons in terms of taking a team to the playoffs that otherwise would not have gotten there are 1985 George Brett. Because 1980 George Brett, the Royals made the playoffs they won the division by 11 games. They were up by 17 games going into September, something crazy. So it was awesome. But they could have won with, anybody at third base that year. But 85 George Brett, and then 2024 Bobby Witt. I'd give George Brett the advantage because he had an incredible final week, and obviously they won the World Series and he was incredible in the playoffs. Whereas Bobby fell off a lot in September and was not very good in October. I think he was just exhausted. But the point is, they made the playoffs by a game. They don't get anywhere near it. If you just flip-flop these 2 seasons, they don't make the playoffs last year. And obviously, if you flip-flop these 2 seasons, they're tied for a playoff spot right now instead of being 3 games out. but there's a potential here that they will make a playoff, make it to the playoffs a second year in a row by the skin of their teeth, almost single-handedly, because Bobby Witt was just bonkers amazing beyond even what, my greatest expectations realistic expectations would have been when he made his debut, 3 seasons ago.
Well, I think a couple of things jump out too. Like, we know how incredible Mike Yastrzemski's been for the Royals. 876 OPS for the Royals. Bobby Witt's 859. So Yastrzemski's playing out of his mind, but down here, Bobby Witt is 859, almost where he's at. I think the other thing is Vinny Pasquantino is out of his mind right now, setting records of his own. And he just pushed his OPS over 800 today. And Bobby, he's at 804, and Bobby Witt's at 859.
I mean, and Bobby has the higher slug. I mean, Vinny, who's, and granted, Vinny.
And that may not end that way.
Sure. Well, the way Vinny's going,
yes.
Who knows? And we're running out of time. We want time to talk about him, but he deserves his own segment because what he's doing is phenomenal and incredibly gratifying because it's two guys who've believed in him for a long time and been waiting for this corner to be turned, and it just feels like he has. But look, the home runs are all him, but the RBIs are because he's got guys on base in front of him. Yeah. And who's batting right in front of him? It's Bobby Witt Jr. So, there's a synergy going on right now with this team.
I will toot our own horn in the sense that, when he was struggling, we both said, I'm not really worried about Bobby, or I'm not really worried about Vinny. I mean, he is a professional hitter. I think we can all, when he's struggling or slumping, which happens to everybody, it's just a matter of time before he comes out of it because he is a pro. He is a pro.
Right. But there's coming out of it, and then there's hitting. What is it? 6 homers in 7 games now. Extra base hit, and actually, is he up to 8 now? I think he may have tied the Royals all-time record. We should probably shout that out. Anytime you tie an all-time record, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess he's still at 7. Okay, but I think Danny Tartabull is at 8. In 1991, he had an extra base hit in 8 straight games. Vinny's at 7. So if he gets an extra base hit in his next game, then he'll tie the all-time record. So. So Vinny's been awesome, and again, this is why the Royals are playing as well as they are, even though the pitching is, falling apart a little bit. So something must give, but I've been saying that since April, and it's nothing's given yet. They're still exactly where I feel like we thought they would be when the season started, which is right on the edge of the playoffs. They're maybe 2 games worse than our projection would have them. And those 2 games are the difference between being right there in the playoffs and being, look on the outside looking in. So,
yeah, it's been fun to watch. That's for sure. Listen, you can always support the Kaufman Corner podcast by hitting the subscribe button, the like button, the love button, whatever button's a positive. You can also support our great sponsors like David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. You've got things that need insurance. David Starnes can insure it all. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Locations all over the metro. David Starnes has got you covered for your home, your car, your boat, you name it. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Call 816-781-7331. By our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and operated, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994, whether it's a simple striping of your lot or it's building that lot from scratch. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com and from our friends at Whataburger. Now, for a limited time, check out some of your favorites like the Bacon Wrangler Double, 2 large beef patties, American and Monterey Jack cheeses, bacon, fried onion strings, pickles, and Chipotle aioli sauce. It's back. Sweet and spicy bacon burger. You can get that as well. My favorite, the patty melt and the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all available right now. All perfect. Wash it down with the Whataburger Dr. Pepper Blackberry Shake. You can get it. They're open 24 hours, serving breakfast 11 p to 11 a. For the good Dr. Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.